Hey y'all, this is aemok,
Madam Hexe,
And Kaitlyn, kayce.
and this is Trouble Comes in 3. This podcast discusses scandalous topics like communication and sexual health, along with kink, leather, and ethical non-monogamy. If you're under 18, please leave us and check out scarletteen.com. For those over 18, welcome and let's get naughty. So before we get started, I do have an addition.
Addition editor's note.
Yes, an editor's note or an addition clarification.
Sure.
During our discussion on anal sex, we focused heavily on gay male populations.
Yes.
It was brought to my attention, and I would like to emphasize that this affects a lot of, HIV in particular, affects a wide demographic of individuals. And
yes,
currently the highest rate of transmission is actually among Black women. The information that we were using for that particular podcast was from the CDC's guidelines,
right,
which unfortunately at the time really only focused on statistics surrounding gay male HIV infection and
right,
risk. So I wanted to emphasize and kind of put that out there that HIV does not discriminate based on gender or sexual orientation or disability or anything.
Yeah.
It affects a lot of people.
Absolutely. Yes. No, absolutely. And we'll probably do a whole entire episode eventually on HIV, the stigma around HIV in particular. I know we touched a little bit on some of the other, like a little bit on the sexual health and STIs, but
Yeah.
I think because HIV has an impressive stigma around it and a very interesting history politically and medically, I think it deserves its own shout out. But
Absolutely.
yeah, absolutely. But now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about, we are BDSM education, but we also like to talk about specifically fetishes and kinks. So why don't we do that today?
Yeah.
Let's play pretend. So we're going to talk about specifically role play as a fetish or a kink. I guess it's a kink. A kink is more appropriate as an action, I guess. Things as innocuous as, you put on the tiara versus maybe some more intense role play types and things like that. We talk about a little bit about interrogation and things like that. So we'll probably, let's start basic, how to get into it, how not to feel like a fool, and kind of ramp up the intensity of it. Sound good?
After we define what role play is.
Well, yeah, that's the start of it.
Okay, yeah. Okay, just checking.
Well, you can start.
Oh.
She's like, oh, I will then.
I will. We're not throwing Kaitlyn under the bus, though.
Not yet.
Not yet. So my definition of role play is interaction, oftentimes between two or more individuals. Though there are some people who do role play scenarios with themselves. But
religious flagellation types.
Right. That the individual players within the scene are acting in roles with responsibilities that are not common to their everyday life.
Right. That is very long-winded, but you have to be very specific with your language in this world. Because you don't want to say, oh, I like to do role play, and someone's doing pet play over here, and that's more of their identity, and you're like, oh, you're into role play too. There's a line there, so that's why it's important for us to kind of like wordsmith that definition, yeah?
I am the wordsmith and the librarian. The words are my thing. Yep.
That's why we do it that way. What are some experiences that you've had with role play? Do you enjoy role play on a regular basis, or is it something more you just kind of like
Sprinkle
in, or it's more of like somebody requested it of you, so you're like, oh, I could do that for a partner, or is that your jam?
So, honestly, it depends on the partner that I'm with. I do enjoy it in some ways. There are certain scenarios that I really enjoy, and I have had partners who were into it as well. It is not necessarily something that is 100%, it has to be involved in my regular relationship.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. It's fun to dabble in. But personally, it's not required. I do it more frequently when I do sessions with other people.
Right. So more kind of like a fly-by case kind of. Yeah. What about you, Kaitlyn? What do you think of roleplay?
I do not think I am very good at roleplay. While I do have very limited experiences with it, think of like Emperor's New Groove, where Cusco's like, I'm a bad llama. That's basically me.
You like to roleplay as a llama?
No. that's just the delivery is how it comes off.
Bad actress is what I'm hearing.
Yes.
Okay.
I am a horrible liar and also apparently horrible at pretending to be something I'm not.
That's fair.
I don't know.
That's an admirable trait, I guess.
It's well, it's interesting because it's like I've never really had an interest in it role play directly, but if you look at some of my kinks and some of the things I want to look more into, like biblification, that would technically be a role play for me because I am not dumb. I would be putting on an act, and so I guess technically,
bimbo. She's talking about bimbofication and things like that.
Yeah, so like technically, I guess that would be considered role play.
Is that role play?
I think for me it would be.
So I guess it's personal. It's always going to be personal.
It would probably be more like degradation and like humiliation oriented as well as like role play because I don't know.
It could be.
We have some himbos in our life. It's definitely a lifestyle.
Right. It could also, though, it could be a situation where you and a partner and the partner is dressing up their dumb bimbo part, like, oh, I just want a dumb pretty thing. Exactly. Here's how I'm dressing you.
Exactly.
Right. Where they don't actually think they do think you're pretty and gorgeous, but they don't necessarily think you're dumb.
Right.
So in that way, if it was in relation to somebody else, I think it could fall into that.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it could. It's kind of like, some people wear pet ears because they think it's cute, and for them it is role play, but then you have an entire pet community that it's like, no, it's not just
believe, and so like I feel like that's where, at least for me, that specific kink falls into. But so that's the thing, and like I mean, I've attempted role play once with a partner. It didn't go quite as planned, but I tried my damnedest.
It takes practice. It's an acting skill.
Yeah.
I am a very proud thespian. I was in theater for years and years.
There you go.
And so for me, acting is second nature. It was something I had already been doing for years and years. So when it came to like being sexy time acting,
she was like one of those good porn actors.
Right.
That and like the ones you're like, no, wait, is he gonna fix the fridge or not?
Right. Thanks. But no, and then like aside from that, I would say my making the quotation mark hands, but my quote unquote like best role play scenario would honestly probably be on the more like business side of kink, where I'm
like professional
for camming and stuff, because that is I take on roles that aren't normally my role for that type of stuff.
They're paying for fantasy.
Right, they're paying for fantasy. And so like that would probably be the closest thing to it. But as far as like an intimate relationship with a partner, it's not something I've really ever thought about. But I guess my relationship style is a bit more extreme, so it hasn't been needed because I'm doing the things that people will quote unquote role play, because
you don't dress up like the maid because you are the maid.
Right. And like a lot of people, there are people who will role play as dom and sub. That isn't their normal flavor. They'll turn it on for a specific session.
Right.
But then after that session, it's back to equal footing, so to say. And so I think because that's a lifestyle for me, I haven't had like the need to. That's really the only thing I would be interested in, I think. But
it's that separation between what we do when we engage in our kink work, like our camming and stuff, and what we engage in our personal interpersonal relationships.
Right. Yeah.
They aren't necessarily the same thing.
Right. Sometimes they vary wildly.
Yes. Oh, like when I have to be toppy. Ooh! Ah!
Someone get that on camera. I love dress up in all senses.
I do like dress up.
So that's what I love about roleplay, is I love the dress up portion. I love the costumes. I love the makeup. I even love wigs and shit. Like I love good dress up. I don't necessarily need to like have a scripted scene for roleplay. Really, for me, it's the costuming that for me makes it. For me, okay, I'm role-playing now because I'm in a princess gown, and now I'm a queen, and it's fantastic. And in my head, I'm a queen. I may not say it out loud and have like, oh, my royal subjects, get on your knees and all that. I'll just put you there, but in my mind, we're role-playing.
See, I could probably get behind like that side, because I do like dress up, and I know like I have like worn my schoolgirl outfit and stuff for you, but it's never been under the pretenses of, oh, I'm going to be your schoolgirl. It's just like, I love you.
The costuming for
But you have like bent me over your knee and spanked me like it, so I know me. I have done roleplay.
Yeah, so I think Aemok put it well at the beginning. You know, it's something that would be outside of the normal repertoire. So that's why for me the costuming kind of speaks to that. I am also a terrible actress. So again, like the scripted portions, like a little bit of back and forth. I'm not a huge talker when I play to begin with. I'm more of like, I'll move you to where I want to go, or check in periodically, or maybe I'll say something in German because in English sometimes feels a little awkward. So that's for me, like the scripted scenes, and not scripted like you wrote it down in practice, but where there's dialogue. For me, I'm not very good, I think, at that. But costuming, and I think a lot of the times for people, it's a chance to stretch your imagination, and I think it's playful, right? Like, you may be doing it for sex. Like, you may be, oh, we're gonna have sexy fun time, or we're gonna have this fantastic scene, and we're gonna role play. But at the end of the day, like, you're dressing up in a costume potentially, and you're pretending to be somebody you're not, and then you're having fun with it. So I think it's important to remember that, not to take ourselves too seriously. And if you do feel like you get the giggles because you feel silly, it's because you are being silly, and it's okay. Move along.
Yeah. Right. Most of my personal scenes haven't been scripted.
Right.
I've done a number of scripted scenes for work.
Yeah.
They're always very awkward because I'm generally not involved at all in writing
the writing?
script.
Right.
Oh, it's extra if you made me a script.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be very awkward because these are not things I would ever say ever. Like,
not even the correct diction here.
No, some of them were terrible.
All these words are far
which
too
is
small
really
to be mine.
really, really painful for me.
Man, it's a good thing you're paying for this, because
But I'm kind of the same way. Like, I enjoy the, generally for me it's been, hey, let's do daddy girl scene, like an incest scene, or let's do professor and student.
Right.
And then I get to think of, like, what am I going to wear? How am I going to, like, what does this student act like?
Yeah,
what does
reaction.
this, like, or what does this professor, like, are they a stern professor? Am I being, like,
do I need extra credit?
am I seducing my professor, or is the professor seducing me?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Important
And
details.
it allows for a lot of creativity in the way I put myself together, but then also the interactions with my partner, because we're feeding off of each other.
Yeah.
If I feel like it and I'm getting a little bratty and little sassy student,
See
that's
where it
one
goes,
thing.
yeah.
If I decide I'm like, oh, let me try to seduce my teacher this
Oh, no,
time.
I forgot
I really need
my
an A.
Oh, did I forget to wear a bra with the shirt again?
They're like, Donna, you forgot the shirt. Ah, damn.
It's like a nightmare.
Oh, that would be fun. Dreamscape kind of roleplay, things like that.
That would be really interesting.
Write that down, somebody, quick. You wake up naked in your classroom. You're like, oh no.
So I loved that kind of. For me, it tends to be a very interactive scene.
Yeah, it's involved on all parties, I guess.
Yeah, and it's a scene that involves, I would say, more give and take compared to some other scenes where, like, something's being done to me and I am
You're an active participant.
enduring and enjoying, and I'm participating, but it's being done to me.
Right.
In this, I am part of the scene.
Right.
I get to be.
You're part of the give as well as the take.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. What are your thoughts, Kaitlyn?
Oh, no, you said, like, professor and student. It made me think, because we went, oh God, so long ago, at least over a year ago now, because thanks COVID, but, like, we went to an event at Christoph's for Halloween, and, like, we decided I was going to be a schoolgirl, and we decided Madam Hexe was going to be the principal, and aemok was our lady librarian. And like we had kind of flirted around in chat, and we're like, oh, well, I might need spankings later because I tried to seduce the librarian, and da-da-da. Would that count as roleplay or no? Because we didn't do a scene in it.
That would
Yeah, I did roleplay!
Texting, yeah. It's not, roleplay isn't limited to just an actual scene or actual sexy time. You can definitely, like, when you're having, like, sex chat with somebody, roleplay! I am in Trader Joe's picking out chips. I am not doing it. You know, I hate to break it to you guys. I am not at home having sexy time with myself while I'm texting you all these terrible things. I'm probably picking out potato chips.
I'm at home drinking a milkshake. Like when I do like
sessions with you clients, don't want that right now.
I'm probably like laying in bed with my hoodie up, like eating my mashed potatoes.
Right.
And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels so great, baby.
Yeah, but that's
roleplay.
It's 100% roleplay.
And sometimes, I mean, part of the roleplay is you're doing this thing that is outside of the norm, and so that talking of like, oh, hey, maybe I should do that thing. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, it's that, you know, the buildup of anticipation is definitely a part of roleplay.
Yeah. I would almost argue that it's a little critical for me to get into roleplay. Like, I'm going to have a roleplay scene. I need a Kickstarter. Like, I need to talk about it during the day. I gotta start. Yeah. I have to start getting into the mindset early. I feel cannot like just like, and scene, let's go.
Honestly, I feel like I would do better that way. Because the one time I tried it, well, not the one time, but the one time I knew I was trying it, I tried it on a whim. Like, it was a split moment decision when I saw my partner when he was picking me up from the airport. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm going to do this thing he keeps begging me for.
Right.
And so, like, I feel like had we, like, kind of started, like, talking about before, it would have gone a little bit better, because I don't think he knew what to do with it either, even though he was sprung on it.
Well, of course, the fantasy is always different from reality, so keep that in mind, guys and gals and everyone in between and around. If you are doing this, the fantasies in your head might not work out perfectly, and it's still totally okay.
So, I have a prime example of
I'm ready.
Yes, not translating. So I had done some shoots with a friend of mine where it was role play,
right?
Shoots. She was my boss, and she was very upset with me regarding my work and such, my performance. Proceeded upon giving foot worship and all of these things.
Right.
Well, one of the individuals who had requested that video then requested a subsequent video.
Okay.
In which
customers, we adore you.
Mm-hmm. In which I fictitiously break into my boss's place.
Quotations.
Quote. The woman who was my boss in the previous video.
Right.
At which point I was going to tie her up and then torture her and make her play with my feet and play back and revenge and be very like, ha ha, you're not gonna fuck with me again.
Joke's on you, she's into that shit. That would be my luck if I ever wanted revenge on someone to be like, hey, what are we now?
She totally was.
There you go.
Which is why I could do the scene with her.
Right.
But the funny thing was that I forgot to talk. Almost I think I said some stuff like when I went in and quote I think I chloroformed
dropped her out, I knock her out, that whole thing.
Yeah.
Frank Hollywood style, like
very damsel in distress, yeah, and then I got to doing the rope tying part,
and you're just in the
and I think
just so focused.
I don't think I spoke again until like all of the tying portion was done, and I was back to like sticking my foot in her face.
Right.
Like I completely forgot to speak.
Yeah, periods of silence are definitely the bane of me as well. It's one of those things that's like, oh, should I talk to this person?
I was supposed to be being like, this is what you get for treating me like that and making me suck your toes and and
just nothing.
No, I was really focused on tying them up.
Yeah.
And she's gagged. She can't say anything.
She wants you to talk back to me.
Right. And I'm just like,
all right.
La, 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 la.
I don't know.
I think they like the video though, at least.
They paid for it. So.
I didn't hear.
The check cleared.
I didn't hear anything else. Check came through, so I guess they enjoyed it enough.
Yeah, I did not hear any complaints. So
Yeah, I think. What you got?
You can go.
No, I'm fine. I think roleplay can be very fun and like kind of cute and fluffy, and then you can go more extreme with it. You can go more quote unquote realistic. We're gonna get to the good stuff. We're gonna work our way up.
I don't have a towel, but I have a blanket.
Oh, you don't have a towel.
I have a blanket.
You're gonna be juicing all over this. Oh well,
It's
your
okay.
blanket.
It's the dungeon. It's not
Yeah,
like
I
it's
guess
the only
if she's gonna
thing.
get soaked, this is the place to do it. But kind of middle of the ground, since we're playing kind of middle ground. We're going from like bedroom, like you talked about the airport, your attempted airport pickup kind of scene.
You mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, one of my favorite role plays to do out in public is cruising, fake cruising. I'm with somebody that I'm already gonna go home with or pick them up or something, and you meet whoever you're with at the bar or restaurant or wherever you tend to do, coffee bar, and you go in like you don't know this person, and you try to pick them up like you don't know them, like they're a total stranger, and you play the game just like you would picking up a regular stranger. My favorite game. I love this
That
game.
sounds super fun. I've never done that one.
I like doing it to other people, but I love having the S-types under me try to pick me up at a bar.
We already went with what my tactic
Yeah,
would
but
be.
you haven't done that yet. But now you've told me, so you can't use that strategy. So you have to try a different strategy now.
But I've already picked you up.
Oh, yeah, but it's different.
This is a deliberate, as if you've never done it before.
I just got lucky with COVID.
Yeah, my slave lives with me, and I'm still gonna make him do it. You know what I mean? Like it's an exercise. Again, it's an exercise in creativity and imagination, and also it's just fucking fun. It is fun to do. And most people around you aren't really going to know what's going on either. So if you're someone that likes kind of public displays, it's subtle enough to do in a vanilla setting where you're not kind of like running up against that vanilla consent barrier that we kind of talk about sometimes. So I love that. I call it fake cruising because obviously I guess you're coming home with me, so it's still cruising, but I knew my target, so.
It's like you drove me here. I know that you're taking me home.
Yeah, this should be easy. We can't be in the same vehicle.
Yeah, no, and I think my ex-partner's kind of view was more along that line, so I think it was like the airport factor that was going off, because one of his
What
things
was he
that
supposed to be,
was,
like a fake Uber driver or something?
well, because what he always wanted was, he always asked, like, he wanted either, like, to try to pick me up or me try to, like, flirt with him, because I don't have a lot of experience flirting with people, or, like, I've never done the whole, like, bar scene thing, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've made some encounters, like, online.
You're younger, so like you didn't have to do the whole bar crawl
right,
thing.
and so like things like that, and so it was always something that he mentioned about like wanting to try, and we had talked about it a little while I was visiting family out of state, and he was like, oh, like da 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 da, it'd be kind of cool if we did this, and so that was a few days prior to me coming home. So we went to the airport. I had colored my hair while I was up there, so I was like, you know what, I look like a different person.
Exactly.
Like, why not just
Yeah,
that? Maybe
you had
that's
your costume on.
right. I was like, maybe that's like the little nudge that I need to go.
It's a sign.
Because I was like, he didn't know that I colored my hair, so like, let's do the thing.
Right.
So he picked me up, and like I tried to play it off as like, oh my god, my ride canceled. I don't know what to do. Like, it's getting really late because my flight got in at like midnight, and it's like, I really don't want to like be sitting here. I don't know what to do. Can you please take me home? I promise I'll give you like gas money or something. So we tried that.
You really tried.
I tried. I was laughing the whole time, but I tried.
Well, you'd be probably nervous laughing asking a stranger for a ride anyway, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, see?
But so
perfect
like
actress.
Also, she nervous laughs constantly.
Yeah. So I believe it. I find it authentic.
So like we did the thing when we were driving home, and like I was trying to do the thing, and so like he tried to play along a little bit and make like a little bit of small talk, like, oh, where are you from? Like, what's your address? Where am I taking you?
Right, like,
and I was like, well, I don't really want to give you like my address, but like if you could drop me off at like the CVS across the street and I'll walk. So we're doing the thing, but then like I guess I don't know if he forgot or if he got bored because I was so bad at it. But like he was just like, so he was just like, I really want Domino's. Can you put an order in? I was like, oh, okay. I was like,
do you
I
have
was like,
or mine? Like,
well, I was like, okay. I was like, I'm not really familiar with this side of town. Like, what's over here? Like, what store should I put it for? And he was like, I don't know. Just Google it. Like talking to me like you would
normally.
Like,
Oh no.
So we did the thing, and I was like, okay, well, I put your pizza in. He's like, oh, you're not going to get one. I was like, well, I didn't want to like
assume
because
you already giving me a ride.
Right, and so we did that, and then like so we went to the store, and I even tried to like keep playing along. I'm like, oh, you're not going to just like drop me off and leave me, are you? If I run in to pick it up, And he was like, no, I'll be here, I'll promise. Da-da-da-da. And then, like, we got, and it just kind of kept fading from there. So we got home, and he's like, can't wait to fuck you tonight, baby. Da-da-da-da. I was like,
what about the gas money? Okay, jeez.
I was like, well, I guess my role play worked because it turned him on.
You're like,
he's just like, you haven't been here for a week and a half and I'm ready to fuck you.
I'm going to say it was most probably the latter of those two situations.
But it was like, so I tried, but then
I'm sure you did your best.
I was like, after that, I was like, well, I feel stupid, so I'm not going to do it anymore.
Aww.
But, no, I mean, I knew that it was a long shot when I went for that, because I was like, at least at a bar, like, you get caught up, even with, like, partners, you get kind of caught up in more, like, the atmosphere and, like, talking to each other about things that aren't your everyday occurrence. Like, you definitely get into that bar talk, so I feel like it might be a little bit easier at a bar, because those are the conversations you normally go towards anyway.
I think we should have you pick up baby girl at the bar.
Yes.
She will not know what to do either. It'll be fantastic.
It'll be great. Her face, currently Kaitlyn's face, is the most extreme version of purple and squished. She looks like a cherry tomato that's been bruised and is about to explode.
Well, while she recovers from that blow, let's move on to some more intense versions of roleplay.
Yes.
Let's do that. So I think we touched on it very early. Interrogations, I think, is a real popular one for more intense kind of roleplay scenes. Because they can vary wildly on the intensity.
Yes.
From, like, we're at the table with a lamp together to, like, waterboarding.
Yes.
Which, one part torture play, one part role play. I don't know. Like, it's wherever your head's at the moment. Like, if it's part of the scene and I'm pretending, like, you know, don't want to get all cultural, but I mean, we could put on a witch trial. It'd be kind of weird, but in a very empowering kind of way.
Interesting.
Could we do a reverse witch trial?
Kill the Puritans?
Can we use your slave for the Puritan?
Yeah, he was a Catholic.
Right.
But can we please put him in, like, a priest's cassock or something?
Yes.
I'm on board. Oh, Spielzeug.
Like a Puritan style priest.
Like with that little hat.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah, put a pin in that. Yeah, let's waterboard him. Oh, he was a swimmer. It's fine.
No, I'm just sad because I want to get waterboarded too.
We'll waterboard you also.
We might have to practice.
Yeah, we'll practice on you.
No.
Yeah. We won't want to hurt him.
I don't want to murder my housekeeper on accident.
I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah,
he keeps the house quite good.
Yeah, he's a nice chap. He's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so,
yes. So, I would definitely agree. It's pretty popular when it comes to more extreme versions of role-playing.
Right. So, I kind of playing off that. I agree because I feel like interrogation play is kind of that happy middle ground, or like the stepping stone, because it's technically a version of C&C, consensual non-consent, which is where you're taking what would typically be a non-consensual interaction and you're doing it in a controlled consensual setting. Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes with those you get into things like rape play and kidnapping. I feel like interrogation play is kind of that stepping stone that more people don't necessarily have triggers around, so you can get that more intense flavor. Some people do, but some people don't.
Finish your thought.
But, like, so for me personally, I was always like, I can never do C&C roleplay. I can't do it too many, like, close-to-home things. Until I found out interrogation play was a thing. And for me, that was one of the few things where I was like, I could see myself doing that because, personally, I don't have triggers around that specific thing.
Right. It is highly controversial because it's a misuse of authority and power. So when you think about interrogations, you know, you think about police officers and detectives, and these are all highly controversial.
I have seen some
hot
amazing military themed.
Oh, see, I would love that, but again, I'm German and I can't do the military uniform.
American military, which
I
might
have to do
still
the hideous green thing, and I'm like, not about that.
Yeah, they were like.
Yeah,
I think it was actually beige camo, but yeah that thing.
So yeah, it's one of those. You just choose to put it to bed and not do the military thing, but. Again, and to your point, you found it very therapeutic, and you found it as a way to get into...
Well, I haven't done it yet.
Oh,
it's the idea. Okay. It's the only
the
one that I can...
Okay.
The concept for me doesn't, like, right off the bat send me into panic mode.
Right.
Like, I've since then, like, with certain people been like, okay, I can maybe be open to trying more of this style, but that's the one where it's like, once I found out about it, I'm like, okay, I'm not completely like red at any CNC anymore.
Right. I think interrogations are highly structured as well, so that helps move the scene along. I think so. If you are new to roleplay, you don't have to necessarily have like an extreme waterboarding interrogation scene, but interrogating tables and that kind of you sit across from me concept, or you're here against your will, is a great structured way to get started, and I think it helps people.
Most of the interrogation scenes that I have either seen or been involved with, the interrogatee, the person being interrogated, prior to the scene, there is
like a word.
Either there's a term or there's, quote, information that they have that the interrogators are trying to get out of them.
Right. Where'd you hide the goods, Tuts?
And so in those situations, the person who's being interrogated is able to control a little bit of the flow of the interrogation, even in the most, like, in the more extreme interrogation scenes.
Right.
Because they're the ones that have the information. Oftentimes they also have a red. Right. But the whole point is to push you until you give up the information.
Yeah, that's how an interrogation works.
Right. And so
allegedly,
because they oftentimes know that information, when it gets to a point that they need to slow down or stop, they can use pieces of information or whatever the word they're looking for to kind of adjust the scene.
Right. So as an example, let's make our pretend interrogation scene, aemok is hiding a alleged caseload of like cocaine or something, right? And I'm a investigator trying to figure out the name of the person that gave her the cocaine, where it is at, and how much there is. So if she's getting to a point where it's like, you know, a little much, she can feed me the information like, oh, it's this cabin in the woods. Oh, where's the cabin? What does it look like? How do I get there? Who gave it to you? No, God, that's all I know. And it goes on and kind of like that. So she's right, you know, I guess the bottom in the interrogation scene can kind of dictate or at least guide that scene along.
Right.
Sound good? Yes, ma'am, she whispers. I said quietly so the microphone can't even pick it up.
I've seen a lot of people do it that way, and I've also seen, I was friends with a couple out in Tennessee, and they're really big into like the interrogation. They have property works. They have an 18-acre property with like a barn on the back 2 acres with where they have their dungeon set up. And so they do interrogation play a lot, and we were talking about one of their scenes, and he was like, I realized that the person that was supposed to give her like the information she's withholding didn't do it. So we just did this whole scene, and I'm like laying into her because she's not
right.
And I was like, actually, I kind of like that one better because it's like I really don't know. It's
I really know what I don't know.
I was like, I was like, that kind of makes me a little bit more wet than actually knowing something that they want. Because if I was like, let's be honest,
you're an innocent victim. Oh no.
If Madam Hexe was like, what the fuck did the thing? Where is the thing? Where's the thing? I'll be like, okay, it's there. Because I don't want her mad at me. It's more realistic for me to not know the thing.
But if you think you're getting an interrogation scene about who stole a stuffy, and she starts laying into you about the cocaine drops,
you're not going to have the right information.
You're not going to have the right information.
You couldn't tell me even if you wanted to.
Exactly, and I like that idea of and I think it might just play into I really like
helplessness,
pain, and I like helplessness,
yeah.
And I like to be tortured, and I was like, that kind of sounds hot because like I'm going to swear up and down I don't know, but the pain's still gonna come.
Is this punishment?
Are we flirting? Is this flirting?
Like
I would honestly, like, if I was ever kidnappers would probably be like,
so what are we?
Right, and be like, hey, what are we? And they'll be like,
get out of my van.
Right, I'm just gonna like have to walk home because they're gonna be like, who picked this one? Who chose this one? Who didn't do their surveillance correctly?
You're gonna correct their, bondage.
Right, I'd be like, oh, are you sure that's right on a nerve? I was like, my hands aren't going to be very good to you if they're not.
Oh yeah, they kind of kidnap aemok either. If they try to tie up, she's like,
I'm just going to dislocate my fingers and slide out of
her
this.
body out of that and all that.
Or undo their knot work.
Right? It's like, this is really, y'all should really hire, I can teach you guys knots if you want.
So speaking of kidnapping, this is another intense version of roleplay.
Yes.
It can, and roleplay, and you mentioned CNC earlier, which is again consensual non-consent. It definitely can fall into that, especially if you don't know you're getting kidnapped. Surprise! But roleplay wise, I think kidnapping scenes are definitely roleplay because I mean, in theory, not really kidnapping somebody.
Right. They've those have kind of slowly been creeping up as to like with interrogation. We're like, that might be okay. I had an ex-partner who CNC was one of his big things, and for a while, like, we weren't talking about it to do it, but we were talking about his previous experiences because he was kind of that turning point of being able to kind of see why people are into it. Mm-hmm. That was one of those things where it's like, I don't understand.
Right.
And so like he was talking about
how... You were at the turning point.
I was at the turning point trying to understand. And
sorry,
so,
I
like,
just misheard you, sorry.
And so like we were talking about some of the things that he does to set up to keep it the acknowledgement of the bottom that this is role play. Like, you aren't actually being the thing. Like, you aren't just like expecting a scene and someone so happened to like kidnap you on the thing. And so like he had a specific watch that his submissive had gifted him, and so he would always wear that watch. So if she looked down, she'd see the watch and be like, okay, cool. Or they had like a phrase back and forth where if she was unsure, she could be like, what are you going to do with me? And his response in it was like every time she asked, it was, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want to, my precious little slut.
Right.
And so that was kind of like that brain thing, like if she's unsure at any point in the thing, she says it and gets the reassurance without breaking the headspace. Because some people get kind of
phrases
caught
are
up.
nice. Yeah, call phrases are like.
Some people get caught up because they're like, well, I don't want a safe word because like that's a thing, and it's like, so that's kind of a check-in point. I think you should always have a safe word with CNCA, but there are people that, and like another pushback is, well, if I know it's going to happen, another dominant of mine was he would set time frames. So it's like, okay, we want to do a CNC scene, we want to do a kidnapping scene. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do it between July 30th and August 20th.
Okay.
And so any time within there is fair game for me to grab you.
Right.
But you know it's only going to happen if it happens outside those dates.
Then so you probably were actually kidnapped and actually called the police.
Right. So
do not get into that bed.
Right. But they had puppies.
Yeah, see, that's we're gonna get kidnapped petting something we're not supposed to, I think.
Yeah.
But I think kidnapping scenes I think are a lot of fun in theory, a lot of work in practice, and there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Loads of moving parts to it. So this is definitely like phone a friend for this, because you definitely...
I generally recommend if anyone is looking into doing specifically kidnapping, interrogation, or CNC-based roleplay, that they have a neutral third party who is not going to be involved
in the scene.
Yes.
Interactively with the scene, involved in the negotiations, as well as potentially monitor the scene.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There's a lot of legalities to think about it too, because it is that risk of it going south quickly, and there is the risk of legal repercussions.
Yeah,
because especially with kidnapping, because a lot of people are like, oh, abduct me from a trail. Okay, but there are other people who could be walking that trail who could call the police. Like that's one of the things is it's harder when you want to try to take it to that public level. Even if you're like, well, I'm going on a trail and no one goes on. That's going to be the one day someone's on that trail.
One time some pensioners out there are going to phone the police. Just a reminder, a lot of the things that we as consenting adults engage in BDSM and fetish and kink often are not legal per se. So take that as you will. We are not lawyers, but just remember that just because this guy said you could punch him in the face, the court is going to say that you've assaulted him.
Yes.
So regardless of what he says, you know what I mean? So keep that in mind in all your shenanigans that, you know, there's some real repercussions for this if you're not careful.
Part of being risk aware.
Exactly. It's one of the risks,
And another part for risk aware is a lot of times, especially if you're starting out into it, you're not going to be able to necessarily know how someone's going to react to a scene.
Absolutely.
In the moment. I know my ex-partner, he did like a fake home invasion scene and actually had 2 lamps smashed over his head because she freaked out. That's part of being risk aware.
Oh, you're like, oh man, this is America, okay? I'll be afraid to get shot if I do a home invasion scene. Are you kidding me? No way.
So
absolutely not. I'll be the getaway driver. I'm not going in there.
Right.
No.
And so it's just like, it's things like that.
Baby, here, no.
things like that you have to think about. Because I know personally for me, like, especially, I haven't done it yet. I am interested in it, but it's one of those things, as with many things, I make my partners very aware. Like, I actually do have, like, past trauma. So, like, I don't know how I'm going to react. It might go great, or I might completely shut down and the scene's going to have to stop. If that's okay with you, then cool, let's try it. If not, we don't have to try it.
Right.
Even someone who does not have clearly identified trauma history.
That might be the trauma. that
right.
It may trigger something that they were entirely unaware of, or is something completely new but was triggered during this event.
Right. Exactly. So definitely one of those ramp up. I like to ramp up to these sorts of things. Like if you're new to role play, you're new to CNC, you're new to these high intensity, lots of moving parts kind of scenes and fetishes and stuff like that. Take your time.
Yeah. You don't have to do it right now. It'll be here in a year or two.
I mean,
have you ever heard of the acronym KISS? Keep it simple, stupid?
yes. Do that. Yes.
When you're first starting out, I generally don't recommend super intense scenes of the interrogation CNC kind if you're brand new.
No, yeah.
Whether to the lifestyle or to your partner.
Yeah.
Just because you've been doing this for whatever many years doesn't mean that you've been doing it with this partner during this stage of life.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
I normally recommend people start with something that's a little easier to set up. Things like teacher-student.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Doctor-patient.
Doctor-patient.
Oh yeah, like how
like
inexpensive is a Halloween lab coat, you know what I mean? I think that's fantastic.
Little stethoscope.
one of those little playhouse, like...
Oh, the like, yeah. Oh my goodness, yes.
The little doctor bag?
Yeah, the little...
High school doctor bag. Yes. No, I love that. Yeah, definitely take it slow. Have fun. I think that's the punchline, right? Have fun.
That's the whole point of all of this. Like, kink and sex should be enjoyable.
Yeah.
Sometimes that enjoyment is derived through pain. Sometimes it's humiliation. Sometimes it's being silly with your partners.
Yeah.
Just have fucking fun.
Put on the silly hat. Let's go.
Oh my god,
cowboy. So, real quick, a shift from our intense, like, death-defying kind of roleplay stuff. Let me go back a little bit. Where do you guys feel cosplayers fall in on all this? Because they take their art very seriously, but you are dressing up as a character that's not you, and oftentimes portraying somebody that's not you.
So for me, I fucking love cosplayers.
Yeah.
So many of them are,
I mean, like anything.
Like most humans, it's I like some of them, I don't like others.
Right.
But a lot of them are crazy hella intelligent. With my theater background is predominantly actually in stagecraft and costume design and things like that. So I am
Those are your people.
intimately aware of what goes into building some of these really gorgeous, intricate costumes and outfits. Oh, the props. Like I could just like joygasm all over myself when we like if we took a couple and we're like, let's discuss the techniques. Unless an individual identifies as being kinky and that in this instance their persona is involved in a kinky nature, then they're two different things. Like, you might think they look sexy as fuck. You might masturbate to them later, but they're not necessarily
there to do that.
getting.
I was just thinking of like role play in general, not necessarily the sexy part, but I mean you're putting on a costume and you're being something that you're playing pretend, just like everybody else.
I think it's really similar to theater.
Yeah.
I mean, impersonation is an art form that's been around for all time. Like,
Substitution, in the words of Oscar Wilde, substitution is quotation is a fantastic substitution for wit. When you can't think of it, be somebody else.
and so, impersonation is something that has been part of culture and been part of theater for as long as there's been theater and community. Cosplay is just impersonating characters as opposed to impersonating living beings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a different type of theater.
It's the impersonation without the script necessarily. Because they're all characters. I mean, like characters, whether it's in a play or a movie or something, they're all characters. But somebody who's like going to a convention or something isn't necessarily going to be acting out a play scene necessarily in any sense of the world.
A lot of cosplayers have
they do.
scripts and such.
Oh, they do. And to me, that's 100%. You're acting.
The
all
Atreyu one
all
with the
it,
horse.
All of that was upsetting. All of it is acting. Whether it's proper acting, whether it's sexy role play, whether it's kinky role play, whether it's cosplay, it's all acting. I have not the talent for proper acting or any of that such thing, so I will just stick to the fancy costumes.
The strong silent type is also an important persona.
It's a good role. I'll be the one standing in the corner drinking the double vodka.
I think Master Shadow called that the introverted dominant.
Yeah. I think he did a little talk on that, didn't he?
He did.
He did. I attended that. I really enjoyed that. I was like, yes.
I could see that speaking to your soul.
I was like, I'm going.
You're kind of the younger female version of him.
That's fair. I accept. Because I'm utterly flattered by that. But yeah, do we have any final thoughts on our role play? Like, do you have any recommendations on like how to get into it? Because we talked a little bit early on about like I need kind of the warm up. Like I want to like talk about it and maybe like assume the character before I actually get to the scene.
I feel like that would be helpful.
Anybody else got some tips, tricks, or favorite kind of things?
So, if you are unsure if your partner is down for role play,
and you don't want to directly ask because some people don't.
Sometimes it's, especially if it's something that you really intensely fantasize about, but in your dynamic you don't as often talk about those types of fantasies.
Right.
Can be really nerve-wracking, especially for people who are, this is the first kind of kink they want to check out.
Yeah, like if you're vanilla and this is you want to dress
thing
up.
To get your toes wet.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to start that conversation. Like, I'd like you to wear this dress, please.
So instead, what I recommend is watch a porn.
Okay. Like together or ahead of time?
You can either like watch a porn together, or
I feel like that's a good warm up.
Or watch. Yeah, I love watching porn with people.
I don't know that I've ever watched it with somebody.
We'll fix that. Yeah. Or watching some sort of
casually with somebody. That's the best part. Like we just eating popcorn and chatting, and
that speaks to my little ace heart so much. I was like, oh, that one.
Like I'm near the sex. I'm just not involved.
Can we critique it too?
That's what I normally do.
I was like, she strikes me as a critique. She's like,
I
get a leg cramp just looking at this.
I particularly like to watch bad porn because I'm like, LOL, that's not how any of this works.
I have a really bad lesbian porn to show you then, because, stumbled across that.
But
we went on a tangent, sorry, Dummy.
I also recommend like either a porn or even a movie or a show that might have that theme.
Okay, yeah.
There, I mean,
like a dress-up scene in it or something.
Yeah,
like
dress-up
there are a lot of
scene.
movies that have like that brief like role play sex scene.
Now sometimes it's silly, but you can use that as a great kind of
or
a great conversation starter.
Oh, look how cute and innocent, and it's good. It's lots of people do this.
You know, the professor who has a student come in, and we will find it and put it in here.
She looks like it's rolling around in the car. You can sense it already. That
I love that movie.
But
the first time I saw it, to be honest.
The way the movie kind of gets going, the relationship gets going, is that one of the women is his student.
Yeah.
And so while they didn't necessarily say, oh, let's play this thing, as the person that's interested, like, oh, do you think that could be really interesting? Like, if I was your professor?
Yeah.
You don't, it's a very
they're gonna know what you
low
mean.
risk.
No one's that dense. They're gonna know what you mean once you feed that initial question. They'll be like, so you wanna dress up? I mean, yeah, but
well, that and later in that movie also they get to like the scene where they are actually dressing up and they find
the
the
theater
sex shop
backstage.
at the theater
Yeah.
backstage.
Yeah,
and like
theater.
one of them is very upset about this dress up and the other one's not, and you can kind of be like, oh, I wonder why she was so upset. Wouldn't you like it if I dressed up for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a low risk way of approaching the topic, because if your partner comes back and is abrasive or agitated by the question, you're like, we were just discussing the movie. Like,
I'm not asking you to do it. I was just
right. I was just like, we were talking about the movie.
Right. Yeah. And if you're into some of the, I don't want to use the word wacky, but more playful or more fantasy-based dress-ups, I'm talking like hobbits and shit. Don't get me wrong. I'm into those worlds. I just don't necessarily want to fuck a hobbit. But if you are into that and you would want to fuck a hobbit or an orc or something like that, definitely broach this subject cautiously. Now, I would assume you're probably with somebody that understands that you're into that shit to begin with.
Not necessarily.
I mean, I would choose to partner myself with somebody that at least is aware of my interests.
But there are a lot, I mean, our culture in America is very, very repressed. You do not talk about kink. You do not talk about sex.
No.
Like,
not even vanilla sex.
Oh my god, you can't even say the word orgasm because it's so uncomfortable.
Oh my god.
God forbid you say penis.
Vagina.
I said that to my mom and she started giggling. I was like, Mom, yes.
I mean, it's a funny sounding word.
Right, but it was the like...
Yeah.
I mean, she is also approximately a 13-year-old boy in her head. We have the same sense of humor.
That's fair.
But I mean, it's like, there are people who out there that literally
like grown adults say word people.
I was probably 20 before I would actually say the word vagina.
But you have one.
I know.
Address
but
it.
I was told that it was bad to say that.
No,
right.
Your vagina's not bad, and calling it what it is not bad. That's for everybody.
And so there is an entire generations that were taught that any discussion in, around, or about sex was inappropriate and should never be had, even behind closed doors.
No, that blows my mind. I believe you, but it blows my mind. But what I meant was more like, if you're into D&D and you've got a whole bunch of figurines of elves and shit, you're probably into elves, maybe not sexually, but I would not then be surprised if my partner with a whole shelf of like these tiny figurines was like, do you want to put on these ears and let's run around the yard and then I jump on you and we have sex? I guess that sounds fun, you know, but I wouldn't be surprised if that then was the result, because I know you have an interest.
I have actually known couples where an individual like completely lost their shit. And I'm sitting there going,
it wasn't
have
obvious?
you met your husband?
Like, is it not obvious? Like, you were willfully blind to this?
Yes.
That's
it was
a different situation.
Absolutely, like, I had no idea. And I'm like, really?
Have you not seen the posters? Like,
or got like a white body pillow. Maybe you didn't know.
Like, for all of the things he's like hearted on social media, like you didn't see there was like a theme to that, but okay.
So try to be aware of your partner's interests as it goes along, so you're not blindsided as hard. But again, some of these come out of nowhere. Like, you know, who knows you were into whatever, you know. But I think it's a good strategy you got. Like, either watch something together, toss them a softball, you know what I mean? Yeah. Feel it out. If it's something that they're absolutely against, all right, well, maybe you just don't do that one thing with that partner, you know?
Yeah. Also,
and you gotta practice to get better.
Practice?
Yeah. It's gonna be funny and awkward. Maybe, I don't know. Like, you did theater, so it's more natural to you to just kind of snap into it. But if it's
still, like, my early, like, role plays, specifically early ones with my ex-husband, oh my god, some of them were painfully hilariously, and both of us had fairly significant acting backgrounds.
It's
of
a
some
little
sort.
different.
And it's a little different. I also recommend that people try not to overthink it.
Yeah.
Get some basic ideas. What kind of costume?
My favorite. I always start with the costume.
Me too.
Yeah, I like to know what I'm wearing, because I'm building the character. I'm assuming the role. And again, no, like, I'm not much of a talker. So understanding where that's going to be a disadvantage and where that's going to be advantageous to the type of role play we do. You know what I mean? If it's something where I've got to be talking at you for an extensive amount of time, that's something that I could do, but I have to be cognizant. Like, I'm really going to have to be aware that I'm not talking and I should be.
Yeah, I think that I kind of fall into the same boat. And, like, that's kind of like the weird middle ground for me, because it's like, as a bottom, I really don't say much, because tend to go nonverbal during scenes.
Right.
As a top, I just feel silly as a top anyways. The only times I really would take, like, I guess the quote-unquote top hat is for, like, for work.
Right.
And I make it very clear that I am not a top. I will play a top for you, and if you're okay with the awkwardness, cool.
Right. I mean, I feel like you could be like the older sorority sister. That you could do.
I think I do really well in like the older sister for like
the
sissies
babysitter?
and feminization.
Yeah.
Like
they're pretty docile.
Yeah, so it's like I do really
love
well with
them.
them.
I love me a good sissy.
They're really sweet.
They're
I was
so
like,
sweet.
that
They're
is
usually so polite also. Because they're like, it's weird. I'm like, it's not that weird.
Yeah,
I mean,
This is not the strangest thing that I've heard.
No,
Right, and so like
get in that DM, get in there, shoot your shot.
For me, the talking is hard because it's either I feel really silly talking and don't know what to say, or I don't normally talk in that setting, so I have to like be super cognizant of what I'm saying. But I think the biggest thing is just have fun with it. You're going to laugh. If you make lines, you're probably going to forget them. Like you're going to feel silly.
Improvise.
Own it.
Role play is most often improv.
Yeah, I would say.
If you overthink every little detail of, well, I have to say this, and then I have to say this, and then I'm gonna do
pick
this,
up
and
this
then
item, and then I have to exactly 1, 2, 3.
something. If you are like dead on for that, something will happen during the scene that will completely. You break a shoe.
Oh God,
That's
Your
happened.
belt bounces off and hits you in the dick when you spank her ass. I've had that happen.
Something will happen and will throw you off.
I have tossed a flogger. I was like, I don't do that anymore.
You're like, I was done with that. I threw it on purpose.
Publicly threw it too. I was like, just get my ass. I'm done with that.
I think I've done that too, actually. I've done it with rope. I've like gone to like
Thank goodness
extended, like chucked
it. It
it.
was the twins, and I went, oh, wasn't on my wrist strap. Bye. Just got one more. It's fine. Nobody noticed it.
But if you're so nervous and you're so focused on it being perfect, you're gonna struggle with enjoying it.
Yeah, you're not gonna enjoy it because you're gonna be like, oh, mess it up. You can't really mess it up. Like, not as far as like forgetting your lines. You're not going for the Oscars, all right? Like, just get in there.
And always try twice.
Oh, at least, yeah. Because the first time it's gonna be this whole new experience on a number of different levels, possibly, and then the second time you're like, all right, I know what all that feels like. Now let's see if I can really get into it and have fun.
And with roleplay, you might have to do like 3, 4, 5, or 6.
Because you might just be like, might not
different
be the right
style.
scenario.
Right.
Maybe you don't like this professor thing because you had a creepy professor in college who really actually tried to like get you to use sex for a grade.
Or maybe you don't like it because it's a cliche. You want to try something different.
Or you just had a shot day at work and
don't want to be
you
screamed
don't
at by
want to
somebody.
deal with this. Like,
Yeah.
you're not in the right mindset for it.
I know.
So
The boy and I do superheroes sometimes.
That's adorable.
But he's like a huge comic book nerd, so.
Aww.
Yeah, so we do Captain America and the Socialist Soldier. That's our little game.
Aww.
Capitalism's dead. But yeah, that's all we got really. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fun. Try it out. Knock it out. If you are into if you're super into role play or you're just getting into it, reach out to us. Talk to us. What are some of your favorite kinds of role play? Are you more into the costuming? Are you more into like the backstory? Are your role plays super intricate? Because I love hearing about that shit. I don't have the capacity for it, but I love hearing about somebody else's adventures.
Yeah.
And remember,
Trouble comes in 3.
and get fucked.